The first thing we're going to do is configure the settings that we can then use for all meetings. One setting that is very useful for lectures is the waiting room. You need to enable it if you want to use it. You can configure which users get admitted directly to your meeting and which users get put in the waiting room. During the meeting, you can admit the users who are in the waiting room into your meeting. Here, for example, I specified that unless the user is logged in with the U of T email, they should be put in the waiting room. You can specify the message the students will see while in the waiting room. For example, you can remind them that if they log in with their UTR-ID credentials, they won't be placed in the waiting room. Another control mechanism you have for admitting students to your lectures is with meeting authentication options. Here in the settings, you simply set up possible authentication options and the default. You will select from these options when you actually schedule your meetings. One possibility is to only allow participants who log in with their uToronto email. This will deny access to all students who, for example, are using their personal Zoom account instead of a U of T one. If you have reason to believe that all students in your class have a U of T email address, this can be a good option. Among other things, it will ensure that you see their names in the participant list. Once again, we have set the defaults here. You can still select a different authentication mechanism when you create a new meeting. Well, let us schedule our lecture meeting now. We're going to select the date of the class, the start time, and the duration. The duration actually doesn't do anything. The meeting will end when the host, you, ends it. Because this is a weekly class, we're going to make it a recurring meeting. It repeats every week, and it will end after 12 occurrences. Alternatively, you can specify the end date. Okay, let's see what effect our settings for waiting room and authentication have here. Enabling the waiting room for this meeting enables it with those settings we specified earlier. And we cannot change these settings here. They cannot be different from one meeting to another. Remember, we set things up so that anyone with a U of T email can join our meetings directly, while non-U of T emails get placed in the waiting room. The waiting room is useful if you don't want to restrict access to your lectures to U of T emails only. You still may want to restrict access and not allow anyone who is not at least signed in to Zoom. If you do want to allow only U of T emails, you can choose this option for authentication. And you can edit the allowed domains. Here's an option you want to be careful with. If you choose Allow participants to join anytime, this means a student can start the meeting without you, essentially at any time. Something you may want to avoid. You can choose to automatically record the meeting, and you have the option to record locally on your computer or on the cloud.